Steve Jacyna, Director of Cyber at Carahsoft. Steve, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Kick things off, AI, ML, obviously playing a growing, ever-present role, both in cybersecurity, decision-making, certainly other areas. Talk about the defense part of government in particular. We're looking for responsible, secure deployment. How do organizations start to execute in that fashion?
Yeah, I think there's three main focus points around that. The first would be around the cybersecurity aspect, right? Specifically, the identity piece, right? I think the identity piece ends up being sort of the focal point for this when you think about AI and making sure that a gentle AI, right, is sort of tracked the same way an employee is tracked within an organization. So making sure that there's strict policy control on authentication, so how it enters a network, what it has access to once it's in that network, right? And then thinking about maybe some of the privileged privileged access management components of that, right? Especially as sensitive information is sort of included, right? So I think that's a big piece. And if you look at identity, that ends up being sort of the first and key pillar of a zero trust strategy. So figuring out how you can incorporate zero trust into the management of AI is hugely important. And then the second piece, I would say, is the human aspect of it, right? Like making sure that there's always a human being behind all major decision making, right? Like I think AI is extremely helpful in many ways, both on a cybersecurity standpoint and in other ways around like automation. But making sure that that automation doesn't replace human decision making is key, right? And almost think about it like this: it's like making sure that there's an adult in the room, right, at all times. And then the third piece, I would say, is the ethical strategies and principles around AI. So making sure that there's strict policies in place that manage the law, so the law is not being broken, and that the AI is acting in a responsible way, especially as it pertains to access to military gear or weaponry, advanced weaponry, right? Like knowing how that AI is going to interact with that and making sure that there's policies in place to make sure that it responds ethically, right? I think are going to be probably the big components here.
In all of those areas that you tease out, the identity piece tied to zero trust, human aspect, the responsible ethical use of artificial intelligence and machine learning, workforce is a massive component. Retention, keeping those folks really engaged, moving toward a common goal. What needs to happen relative to workforce so that those organizations can position themselves well for future operations?
Absolutely. So the first starts with the EDU space, especially higher education. So making sure that cybersecurity in particular is bolstered within the university level, so that there's a high level of awareness that these cybersecurity roles and positions and careers are available, right? And then adding to that is making sure that university curriculum has the right, certifications in place, so that when somebody comes out of the university, hey, they're ready for a role in the DoD space, right off the bat. And then maybe going one level deeper is maybe getting started earlier at the K through 12 level. So maybe planting the seed that, hey, roles in cybersecurity are highly prestigious and they're fun and they're interesting, right? So that people in the grade school or high school level can look at that as a possible career choice. I know when I was going to school in grade school, everyone wanted to be a policeman, a fireman, a pilot, right?
An
astronaut, but a cybersecurity analyst or operator, that wasn't on the radar. So perhaps planting that seed and letting kids know early that that's a fun and interesting career path. The second thing I would say is maybe elevating the status of cybersecurity within the DoD space and making these roles highly prestigious, right? And creating, elite communities around cybersecurity so that, folks who want to work in that sort of line of work know that it's a prestigious position and that it's, highly sought after, right? And I think that's going to be really important as far as retention is concerned, but then also, attracting new talent. Some other ways I think, creating and going back to the EDU space is creating, more cyber ranges and wargaming exercises for students to get them, some real world application on cybersecurity in a fun and interesting and engaging way. And then the last sort of strategy would be, public and private sector exchange programs, so that the public sector can work with private sector and sort of exchange positions, and cyber operators can work in each other's environments and learn new skill sets and network. And it also could be another avenue for identifying new talent, right? Folks who come over from the private sector and want to work in the public sector and find it interesting, right? That could be a way. So,
Steve Jacyna, Carahsoft, thanks so much.
Thank you.